Alrighty, here we are, retired in Korea. We're going to be talking about some stuff. Some stuff's going on. Yes, as you can see, we are going to talk about some stuff. Matter of fact, let me get this stuff over here. Yeah, we're going to talk about retired in Korea, president's life in prison. Yeah, that's kind of wild. Legalizing prostitution. That's not in Korea, but it's in the United States, so go figure. Chatgpt killer and crazy VA rule. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So, and with that, we're also going to be doing some stuff. Let me just kind of get a little bit of few things here organized, and we should be ready to go. We got George. George is here. Hey, good to see you again. Glad you're aboard. We are rocking a French vanilla latte. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, we're doing a French vanilla latte that. Ooh, that hits the spot. And then we've got a little bit of a Danish thing going on. Yeah, Friday is donut day for me. So I like going to the gym. I like working out. I like getting swole. You know, trying to stay in shape as an old man. You know, I try to get with the times with all those youngsters. George says that he's got sweet tea on his end. Okay, yeah. Let's see what else we got going on. You probably noticed over there in the background. You can see, hey, we got a little bit of cleaning going on. So we got some cool stuff. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can get. Maybe this will work. And no, it doesn't. But we can do that there. So you can end up saying, yeah, we did a few upgrades. We're getting pretty good on this. You know, we got some different views of the desk, and we're upgrading things. We're currently printing out some paint holders, kind of like you see over there. Matter of fact, if we go over here to the K2 Plus cam, you can end up seeing that we are indeed printing those things out as we speak. I just love 3D printing. So yeah, it looks good. Yeah, and I did some other stuff as well. I wonder if, you know what, I think we can do this. So if you hold on, let's go ahead and we'll turn the lights on, because that gives a little bit, and then we'll just kind of take this. Can I do this? So you can kind of see we got the desk over there. We've got the pegboard is all up, and you can see I laminated the top there, and you can kind of see it over there as well. I put laminate, kind of like an ochre laminate, like we saw on the top of the desk over there. So yeah, we're getting all kinds of organized going on. Bear with me. But yeah, it's turning out pretty good. Turning out well. So getting paint things organized, doing all that. I still getting this all cleaned up, and we'll get all our paints up there. And like I said, we're almost probably in about, how many more hours do I got on that? About 7 more hours, I should have my paint racks done. So those will all be done. So my paint racks, and then I got one more set of shelves that I'm going to go ahead and put over there. So we should be pretty close to getting that done. And I really like it. And if you look like over here, you can see I got like the same oak laminate. I did that. It looks really nice. It's not, everything's like dark. So I like that contrast, and it looks pretty good. So yeah, enjoyed it. George says, if I ever organize, I'll never be able to find anything ever again. I know, that happens sometimes. But this is the year that I'm going to be organized, so. Actually, it's Saturday, but. Friday is donut day. So I got 3 donuts. So yesterday I had a honey fritter. Today is like a coffee mocha pastry little thing that we got going there. And then I got a strawberry filled donut, and that'll be for tonight. And that's my splurging for donuts. So that's my donut thing that we got going on. So yeah, it's coming along pretty good. I like the laminate came out really nice. And yeah, things are real nice and clean. Look at that. I mean, it is turning out quite well. And I like the fact that I'm able to, well, basically, have everything organized, neat and clean and nice and the whole 9 yards. And I think this will go a long way to being organized, because it'll force me to put stuff in its place. And then once it's in its place, I got to find places for all the other stuff. And then there's a lot of stuff that I have that is just like junk, you know. So it's kind of like your kitchen junk drawer, except it's not in a drawer. So we're going to downsize on some stuff. Of course, we'll make more shelves and have some good storage. So we should be good to go on that. I'm still not awake yet. Need more latte. Anyway, with that, we're going to talk about some things like you see up here. The president gets life in prison. And no, I know some people are probably thinking, oh, Trump's getting in prison, yay. No, it's not that president. It's the president here in Korea. And not the current president. It's the last president. So we're gonna take a look at this. And yeah, I don't know what was going through his mind. For those of you who don't know, I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, American expat living here in Korea. And I've been doing so for almost 3.5 years now. And I spent a lot of time before that in Korea, but now we're retired here, so we live here. And the last president, President Yoon, he was like a sole prosecutor. He was a top-notch prosecutor for years and years and years. And so people were like, oh, this could be a good thing. And so they voted him in. And then he went about and he declared martial law. And it was like, what? Martial law is kind of like, you know, when the enemy is at the gates, the city is under siege, you know, the whole 9 yards. It's bad. It's natural disasters, you know, Godzilla roaming the countryside, battling Rodan or something like that. That's not what happened. It ends up that, and here's the thing. He was able to, according to the Constitution of Korea, he was able to call for, you know, that. He could do that and declare martial law, shut everything down. But then he did something squirrely where he didn't allow the other politicians to come into the National Assembly to hear why he enacted martial law, and wouldn't allow them to vote on whether they should keep it or they should vote it down, because that's their constitution says they can do that. They're supposed to do that. And President Yoon had the military forcefully keep politicians out of the National Assembly so they could not vote on the martial law that he enacted. So yeah, that just breaks so many laws. And, you know, of course, it was real squirrely. His wife was also involved, not in the martial law thing, but she was involved in some insider stock trading manipulation thing. She was getting presents from the Unification Church and having undue influence, and she received gifts of, you know, things that she wasn't supposed to be getting gifted. Yeah, George got it right. George says, yeah, follow the money. It's about the money. So some people posed that he declared martial law to get the focus off of his wife, who was getting in trouble. They were going to get in trouble anyway. I don't think that's true. And then it was like, oh, well, this was, you know, a one-off thing. Then they actually found out through the investigation that he had planned this for like over a year or something. And so military was involved. There, you know, there was another high official that just got 11 years in prison. And so now we're finding out that the President Yoon, ex-president, has got life in prison. Yeah, it was a doozy. Now, this was all centered in Seoul and around the National Assembly. The martial law When I heard about it, I was like, okay, I need to dust off the go bag and maybe we need to go to the airport and leave. Uh, Thankfully, we didn't have to do that. It only lasted 6 hours. And then, yeah, and then all the chaos ensued afterwards. And I mean, credit ratings went down, world businesses, and I mean, it had ripples out that affected Korea negatively on so many levels. And I just don't understand somebody who was a chief prosecutor in Korea with supposedly smart, but apparently not, thought it would be a good idea to declare martial law. So that wasn't really a thing. Hey, we got almost retired. Almost. Hang in there. Glad you're here listening from Florida. Florida was a place we considered going to retire, but we ended up here in Korea. So yeah, good to have you aboard. Hey, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We can stay together on this stuff. So let's take a look and we'll see what the breaking news is for Yoon getting life in prison. So yeah, here it is. Let me see if we can. Do we got all this? Can we make all this so it's on the screen? Am I getting this all on the screen? I think I am. Okay. It's just odd. It's just not. There's something amiss. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just me. Okay. Well, anyway. Yeah, this is what we got going on. And Yoon Suk-yeol sentenced to life in prison for leading insurrection. Yes, declaring martial law when you don't need it. George ends up saying that, yeah, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't know. I don't think power corrupts. I think it just gives people the ability to let the corruption out that they have in their heart. So it's, yeah, but still, end result is still the same. So there he is. He's like, and he played some dirty stuff leading up. You have trials and courts and all this stuff. He ended up being like a whining toddler baby. He wouldn't come out of his cell for court appearances and things like that. And oh, I'm sick. And oh, he tried to frame that. Oh, I'm not feeling good. And oh, this is I have medical conditions and blah blah. Suddenly, everybody gets sick when they get in trouble and have to be accountable for their actions. Well, he did that. He acted like a spoiled toddler. And since I worked in prisons, I've seen all of that. So it was just like, you were the president. If you're corrupt, at least be a man and man up to it. Don't play like you're a baby and trying to say, oh, I'm sick, I can't answer questions, oh, I can't leave my cell, I'm not, yeah. That just pisses me off. So they sentenced him to life in prison, finding him guilty of leading insurrection. And that's what happens when you don't exercise enough. The verdict came 443 days after the imposition of martial law on December 3rd. Yes, there was a great holiday tradition of martial law, which lasted 6 hours and triggered the country's most severe constitutional crisis since being democratized. Yeah, it was quite the thing. I was like, ooh, this isn't good. I'm not the sharpest tool in the drawer. I'm probably like a spork. But yeah, martial law, it is never really a good thing. And especially in the history of Korea, anybody that declares martial law, it is never good. So yeah. He's getting physical detention in January last year and was removed from office in April. So yeah, he's got the life in prison. So there he is. It's like, and his wife got prison. I think she got I can't remember how many years she got. But yeah, it's just not going well for the ex-president. And I was really surprised. They were calling for the death penalty. People are like, oh, he's going to get the death penalty and everything. And it's like, I heard music. Okay. I think we got things sorted out here. Okay. I don't want to get music on there because then that will get a copyright strike. But yeah, they called for the death penalty for him. That was quite interesting. And people are like, oh, they're going to, Korea hasn't enacted the death penalty since 1997, so that's the last time that they used it, and it was for serious crimes. It wasn't for martial law. Nobody got hurt during the martial law. Nobody got killed or anything like that. It did send ripples throughout the economy. It wasn't really a good thing. Could you imagine on the world stage, and you're a Korean company and you're doing business and you're trying to do business with another country, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, we got martial law over here, and the other country that you're working with is like, we're going to hold off. And you're like, damn it, Yoon. It's kind of crazy. They say if they put him in Gen Pop, he might get that anyways. I know. It's not like the United States in Korean prisons. Korean people as a whole are more respectful, so we got that, but I don't think that would happen. That's very, very rare. It's not like the United States in the prison system. I worked in the prison system in Colorado for over 11 years in 2 medium restricted facilities, and I also spent, did a little bit of time in Supermax in not the ADX, not the federal Supermax, but the maximum security in the state of Colorado. So, did a few tours on that, worked out there a few times. Horrible people. Where in things in prison in the United States, that can definitely happen. You hear of inmates doing horrible crimes, and then they go to people becoming inmates and going to prison, and then there's the prison justice. I don't think that will happen in this case. But when they did call for the death penalty, I knew they weren't going to, that would never be an option. Because, again, they haven't had the death penalty since 1997. It's still on the books, but they haven't done it since 97. And then also, Korea is not known for maxing out the punishment in cases unless it is extremely severe. And the fact that no one had passed away or got hurt or whatever, it was just a constitutional country issue, which is, in my opinion, would be way above that anyway. But I knew they wouldn't sentence him to death. So the life in prison, we'll see how that goes. There have been cases where people are supposed to have gotten a certain sentence and it's been reduced later on down the line. We'll kind of see how that goes. It wouldn't surprise me. Let's put it that way. It would not surprise me if that is what happened with that. And I hope you don't mind. I'm going to do a little Dunkin' Donut thing here. These are Dunkin' Donuts, so I'm authorized to do this. So, because like I said, Friday's donut day. I get some donuts, and even though it's Saturday here in Korea, I'm still enjoying the donuts I bought on Friday. We got Swedish Forge is aboard, so that's always fun. I got some people from Sweden. There's some other folks. We had some people from Denmark, some other European countries, which is kind of wild. Sweden says, Steve, what's up? Oh, we're having fun. Having donuts, having a French vanilla latte that I made. I'm talking about how the past Korean president got life in prison for declaring martial law and stepping all over the Constitution. But yeah, that's what we were talking about just a minute ago. So that has been interesting. Then we talked about prison justice. Will he get his when he gets into prison? I don't think so. Prisons here are different than prisons in the United States. And like I said, I've seen people get reduced sentences over time. It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't have to serve his full life term. Yeah, I'm just going to, it could be, oh, well, he's old and But then again, I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if he got at some later date, as he got really old, they might let him out. That's a possibility. His wife got some prison time for accepting bribes and, the whole stock manipulation thing. She was let off for that. And so it's just justice is weird here sometimes, just like in the United States or other countries. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's questionable. So yeah, but at least he got his. We'll keep the fingers crossed, because that was just horrible. And yet there's still tons of people. Here is the strange thing. There are still a ton of people, Koreans, that support Yoon. They have demonstrations. Oh, free Yoon, free Yoon. And it's like, you look at what he did, and you look at your own constitution and checks and balances and the rules, and, here's how you run government. Here's what you can and cannot do. He clearly broke the rules and kept other politicians, parliament members, out of the National Assembly so they could not vote on the martial law, because once that's declared, that's constitutional. The president can do that. But everybody else has to vote on it to say, okay, well, what's the situation? Is this really bad? Or do we just veto this and we stop the martial law? He kept the politicians out, which is against the Constitution. So, and this has had some wide-reaching, far-reaching repercussions. There's been like 14 Korean generals that have been removed from office. And then I think there was like a prime minister or something type of guy that got like 11 years. So when I saw that he got 11 years for this martial law thing, I saw, might get 20, 30, 40 years, but he ended up getting life in prison. So we got that there. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be kind of interesting. Doesn't have to do with Korea, but legalizing prostitution. Legalizing the extracurricular activities that may abound. The world's oldest profession. And this hits home. And while this is not in Korea, it does hit home because I used to live there. And so, yeah, I just don't get it. Colorado, what are you doing? What are you doing, Colorado? I don't get it. Supporters, opponents react to proposed Colorado prostitution legalization bill. Oh, Lord. Seriously, Colorado, what are you doing? The first thing it ended up doing is they legalized marijuana, and then that brought all the criminals that smoke marijuana to Colorado. Homelessness abounded, crimes went up, and now we're going to legalize prostitution. It's like I left the sinking ship. Hey, we got Ferris is here. Good morning, sir, or good evening. He's in the United States. So yeah, Colorado lawmakers and community leaders are speaking out amid an effort of the capital, the first state in the U.S. to entirely legalize prostitution. Seriously, are are they flushing the toilet, or are they just kind of increasing the circular momentum of the flush already? Senate Bill 26097 would decriminalize commercial sexual activity among consenting adults and repeals all state laws concerning prostitution while still criminalizing pimping, human trafficking, and pandering. That includes menacing and intimidation. So you can do it for money, but if you're human trafficking, yeah, that's still bad. Pimping, that, I don't get this. It's like, George says Colorado already has a trafficking problem. This seems it will just make it worse. Exactly. Because for those of you who don't know, Colorado is, it is at the crossroads of the United States. So east and west and north and south, major thoroughfares, and drug trafficking, human trafficking, all kinds of things go through Colorado. Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver, it's crime is bad and drugs are bad, and it is really, 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 really rough. Ned Vendiv says it would provide protections for sex workers. Yeah, it could, but for the entire state, I think it's going to have the opposite effect, because how are you going to stop human trafficking? If you legalize prostitution, generally what you end up seeing is you see more human trafficking. Now, this is me talking from um, a law enforcement corrections experience. I had 11 years in corrections and I worked law enforcement and things like that, upscale security, firearms instructor, blah, 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 military, all of that. So, especially in regards to corrections and how to fix things in the state of Colorado for 11 years, it was really, really the things that we ended up seeing, talking about legalizing drugs, legalizing other things. We would get briefings on that stuff. And, you know, some people say, oh, just legalize everything and then everybody's protected. That's not the case. And definitely not with legalizing marijuana, because petty crimes, break-ins, things like that, crimes related to where you steal something so you can go sell something so that you can buy marijuana and smoke it without getting put in jail. That was an after effect, and it was a very poor result, and crime just escalated. And that brought, the thing. Here's the thing. Here's something that people don't know is that when they legalized marijuana, the cartels would bring marijuana into Colorado, and of course, other people, criminals in their organizations would bring marijuana into Colorado. So when they legalized marijuana, I knew this was going to happen. A number of us did. Is that you legalize it? That's going to hamstring the cartels and the drug runners and all that stuff. And it's like, no, they switched to something else, and so fentanyl went through the roof. Meth went through the roof. We started seeing other drugs because it's like, we can't make money with Mary Jane, so let's pump more meth into Colorado. Let's pump more of this and more of that. Other more dangerous drugs than marijuana. And so that was a thing they didn't think was going to happen. And it did. And they're stupid for not thinking that was going to happen. So in the same thing, unfortunately, I still get the same feeling, in my opinion, is that they're going to legalize prostitution. You're going to see more human trafficking. Where are you going to get your workers from? They're going to come from other places. How are you going to know that there haven't been trafficked? I just don't think it's gonna be interesting. Swedish Forge, has you printed anything lately? Yes, I have. Matter of fact, if we go over here, we can take a look. I am printing out, as we speak, during this live stream, printing out some paint holders. So, like these right here. So we're printing these out because, and if we take a look, if we go back here, I think we can end up seeing it. There's a good shot right there. So I'm organizing the desk. I'm printing out a bunch of paint holders, as you can see there. And yeah, we're getting on it. We are getting on it. So we're doing that. We're cleaning up. We're organizing. And yeah, that's what we're doing. So good question. We're gonna print some other stuff, and hopefully we'll get back to doing some more print stuff. Now that we're going to get back onto the highway off of the off-ramp there, Ferrith says, I don't know how this works in the U.S., but in Germany, legalizing prostitution led to sex workers having the ability to unionize, get health insurance, and other protections that regular work gets you. Which is absolutely true. If you're involved in that type of endeavor, then you probably should have some protections. But I think outside of that, and especially where Colorado is located, it's already known for drugs and human trafficking hubs, and because it's right in the middle of the United States, and it's a thoroughfare, money, drugs, trafficking, the whole nine yards. That is kind of central to Colorado because it goes throughout the United States. And I think this is going to lead to even more people that are kind of going to come to Colorado that are a very questionable character, Now, again, I don't really care what you do in your off time. If I think of it this way, if I spend money to play a video game, if you ever play Galaga or Defender or Miss Pac-Man or whatever, you put your money in, you play the game. I don't care what you do. So if you pay money to do that, or you pay money to have some extracurricular activity from women or men of the night, that's totally on you. That's on you. The problem comes is with these secondary problems that arise from the legalization of, like what we saw with marijuana, had these results that were like, oh shit, wait a second, this isn't good. Petty crimes and other crimes went up, and muggings and homelessness exploded, and all of the things that the politicians in Colorado said would never happen happened. Yeah, imagine that. What are the odds? Veritas says that the legalization led to significantly improving the working conditions of sex workers that are there anyway. That's true. I agree with that. There should be safe sex. Should always be safe sex. Of course, the ultimate safe sex is not having any sex. Well, I guess that's not safe sex. I guess being monogamous or one dedicated partner, it's, when you start adding more people into the mix, the possibility of getting diseases and things like that go up. It does increase, even if there is the protection of sex workers. Those things do happen. And what we're seeing nowadays is that, so there's good and bad. There's good and bad on both sides of this. But now we're seeing antibiotic resistant strains of STIs or STDs. And now we're coming up, and there's more that are popping up. Now there's this weird fungus thing that is coming in, and people are getting encrusted looking like zombies or whatever. And it's like, holy crow. So we're getting new stuff all the time in regards to STDs. And, medicine is kind of keeping up, but how far are you, I guess it comes to, how long are you going to poke the bear? And is the bear going to swipe back? And look at what happened with HIV. Everybody's like, yay, free love and all this stuff. And then people are like, I'm feeling kind of sick, and then boom, the whole AIDS thing came up. And then it took decades and decades to get medication for that. How long can you poke the bear? And should you poke the bear? And you probably shouldn't poke a bear, because that would be wrong. But just, you get what I'm saying. It's like, how far are you going to push the limits until something gets really bad? And so, yeah, there's always the pros and cons in everything. George says they had the same problem in Reno when they first legalized prostitution there, and it took many revisions before they got it to where the point is now. Yeah, and there's still, that was the case I was going to bring up. There's a lot of trafficking in that area. Wonder why? Wonder why? Yeah, it almost encourages. It will encourage human trafficking. That's all I'm saying. The tasteful thickness is on. It says LWRCI makes the best BCG in existence. Bolt Control Group is. I'm assuming that is LWRCI. That brings me back to my days of when I used to run and gun and shoot and teach and all that good stuff. So, I don't know, it depends. You can have the greatest equipment on the face of the planet, but if you can't put rounds on target, doesn't matter. Nice. Tasteful says if you legalize heroin use, you can get better quality needles. Yeah. And how did that work out for California? Not only do they provide syringes, they also provided drugs. And look at the amount of homelessness that increased and went through the roof. Look at crime and how it went through the roof. And then the other side effect of that is the felony crimes went up so bad in California that they said, because they were doing said stuff like that, and homelessness exploded, which Gavin Newsom keeps saying is that he's fixed it. And it's like, no, it's gotten progressively worse every single year over the last, 16 years, 17 years that he's been in politics. It keeps getting worse. So I don't know I think his definition of success or fixing is flawed. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm an independent, so I can say that. But yeah, look at how California turned out. Hey, let's give needles, let's give free places and clean stuff, but let's outlaw straws. But now the ground is littered with syringes and drug paraphernalia. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But save the turtles from straws. Faritha says legalization usually opens the door to oversight. Yes, it does. But then there are also some far-reaching effects that aren't related to the thing that was legalized. And that's kind of what we saw in California. California was, and I've got family there. I used to live in California back when California was great. It ended up that with all the problems that stemmed in California, and crimes went through the roof and the whole 9 yards, this still is today, that they changed the laws. They said, oh, we're going to fix this. We're gonna make it better. We're not going to have so many criminals getting felonies. And what they ended up doing is they changed the statute. They changed the law saying, well, now if you steal, because it used to be like if you stole something from a store, that was a felony. Well, then they raised that limit up to like $950. And anything over that would be a felony. And anything below that would just be a misdemeanor. I think a type 2 misdemeanor or type 3 or whatever. It would be a misdemeanor charge. So what happens? Oh, felonies went down. Look how successful we are in the reduction of felonies in our state. But then the petty crimes and the misdemeanors, because people saw that, oh, I'm not going to catch a felony for shoplifting and I can go up to $950. There was people that were getting arrested 5, 6, and 7 times in a day for shoplifting, and as long as they stay below that $950 limit, it's just a misdemeanor. They bring them in, they do the paperwork, then they let them out. And they committed that same crime 6 other times. It's almost like it's an Olympic sport. So on the one hand, legalization is good because you can regulate an activity, and you don't want people just jumping in planes and flying around. Joe Johnny Boxer Rocks that shouldn't be on a plane, can't even tie his own shoes, shouldn't be allowed to just step in and fly a plane. There needs to be some type of process to legalize and certify and keep people safe in said activity. And I agree to that with prostitution to some degree. But I'm not concerned with that because, yeah, that will help those people. I'm thinking, I'm just waiting for the robots to show up, and then we don't have to, end human trafficking. Let's just do robots. Yeah, I don't know. That would be weird. I'm old school. I'm so glad I'm married and I don't have to worry about all that stuff. But I don't know. Maybe there's something to be said for robots these days. I don't know. Okay, so let's continue on. We'll go back because we are digressing. So yeah, but it'll still criminalize pimping, human trafficking, pandering, which includes menacing or intimidation. The bill argues legalization protects sex workers, as we talked about, because we're all intelligent people here, so we already knew what this was going to say. And empowers easier to report crimes without fear of repercussion from law, which I agree. It's still kind of odd. It's difficult to imagine a more needed, untimely, and reckless bill than this one right now. If this thing makes it to Polis' desk, he's going to have a decision to make. We're going to turn Colorado into Las Vegas, or we're going to keep Colorado good for families. I hope it doesn't get there, but with the backing that this thing has, it could. Prostitution is legal in Nevada, but not Las Vegas. However, Nevada legalized prostitution only within houses of prostitution or brothels in some counties. So which is odd. Yeah. Uh, blah blah blah. We see some other things. Talked about New Zealand, Belgium have decriminalized prostitution rather than Nevada and the Netherlands, which have regulated. Basically, the approach is saying what happens in the private bedrooms of consenting adults isn't the government's business, and the government will no longer be involved in that. This is not what is the legal framework all in that of Nevada or Amsterdam, but is much more closely aligned with the framework of the laws that is in New Zealand and multiple states, and Austria, Belgium, where the data shows outcomes can reduce trafficking, reduce violence, better health outcomes, better treatment, all that stuff, which, that is absolutely true. He referenced a study in this study in the PLOS Medicine Journal found that ex-workers exposed to repressive police policies have a higher risk of HIV and STIs, and also found criminalization disrupted, blah, 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 and all that. And yeah, there's a thing there. So, here's the thing. It says if pimps and traffickers believe that women will no longer have any sort of consequences, they're basically going to close shop. But it does not remove the danger or the criminal activity that follows it. The influx of pimps in Denver will absolutely bring more crime. And it's, again, I kind of say that with the marijuana, legalizing that, and the secondary issues that we had in Colorado after that legalization. Legalization itself wasn't bad, but the people that came to do that weren't of the highest quality people. So they didn't take that into consideration. So anyway, some people are for this. Some people are like, nah, it's not a good thing. We shouldn't do this thing, legalizing it. It doesn't surprise me that Colorado is doing stuff like this because, again, you have Polis and let's put it this way. I don't appreciate him. And I'm an independent, just going to remind people. So he's had some very questionable policies that he's put into play. And again, what I saw this from was from a corrections standpoint. So, working with inmates, working in prisons, also did prison ministry, also worked with homeless, also worked with inmates on parole who got out of prison and so on and so forth. And, I did say prison ministry. So, I did that for a number of years. And the things that Polis has done, especially the legalization of marijuana, the panhandling, the drugs, that has got worse because the people that came to get the marijuana weren't the best people in the world. A lot of them weren't. And that resulted in high crimes, break-ins, the whole 9 yards, muggings, homelessness, begging, panhandling. It has really, really gotten crazy. And you had entire neighborhoods that were super nice neighborhoods. I mean, we're not talking rich. We're talking working class neighborhoods where, the husband and the wife, you and your significant other, whatever, each of you had a job. It's not, you didn't have like a 5,000 square foot house. You had a normal house, normal, everyday working people. Good neighborhoods, they're nice. They're not rich. They look after each other. With the legalization of marijuana, and the next thing you know, you got people breaking into cars, and then you got people breaking into houses, and then, the police, emergency services are being strained, and it just ended up, neighborhoods just dropped. And then you would have bands of homeless people that are looking to score so they can buy drugs, buy marijuana because it's legal here and it's not a problem. But then the problem is a lot of the people that came to Colorado that were homeless weren't just partakers of Mary Jane. They partook of a lot of other things. But it just didn't turn out well. It just didn't turn out well. And so the legalization that they're talking about now, I don't know if that's going to be a good thing. Initially, if they pass it, it's going to have some secondary problems, and it's going to make Colorado worse. With that said, whatever two consenting adults want to do, or more adults want to do with each other after hours, that's on you. Do what you want to do. Do what blows your hair back or we'll keep this nice. This is an adult channel. It's not a children's channel, but we'll try to keep it clean. But you get my point. Do what you want to do. I don't really care. Your orientation or whatever it is, if you enjoy it and you're responsible and so on and so forth, and it makes you happy, and it doesn't tread on the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness of other people, yeah, go for it. Okay. But when you start stepping on the toes of those things, yeah, that's when it's like, yeah, probably not a good thing. Let's get back to some comments. Tasteful Thickness says, no, it's not on you. Everything is on the community and the culture. We don't actually want government oversight on this. We want bad things to be illegal. Well, then you come to the place of like, how do you define what is illegal? And usually it's a culmination of society or a group of people that come together that make and say, hey, well, maybe unaliving somebody for no reason, that's probably not a good thing. So let's make that illegal. We don't want people to do that. I have my stuff. I have my, French vanilla latte here that I made that is oh so good. But I don't want somebody to steal it for me. And other people, you don't want somebody to steal your lawnmower, your daughter, your kids, your car, your house or whatever. So yeah, let's make that a rule and say we don't want people to do that. What the problem is that when government is made up of people and then the people that are in power have a skewed sense of justice or morality, and they can't see the big picture, they can't see the secondary issues that might arise from enacting something as being legal or illegal, that is where the rub comes in, and not the rub that... Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't end in a happy solution. The rub is bad. It's a bad rub. It's not a good rub. So, Ferritus says, well, health insurance for these sex workers leads to more regular testing, leads to less people spreading anything before it is detected. That's true. But with that, on playing devil's advocate, now we're getting, and over time, we've gotten STDs that are resistant to antibiotics. And it keeps getting worse and worse and worse over time. So again, how long are we going to poke the bear? Regular testing is good. I have actually seen this in person. You might be saying, what? You've seen this in person? Yes. Being in the United States military and being overseas, I was in Korea at a time where the GI clubs and the bars that had female hostesses that might have been engaged in questionable activities had to get tested by the military. And yes, it actually does work, but then we also saw more severe cases over time of where those STDs became way more aggressive. And holy crow, there are some protections there, but again, there's a lot of open cracks there, and I'm not saying that as a pun, but it could be. It could be. Ooh, this is getting rough. But with that, the testing did help a lot of people, but still over time we had worse and worse STIs come into play. And it's not a guarantee that just because you get tested, it's like, oh, you're going to keep everyone 100% safe. That's not how that works. Percentage-wise, yes, we can generally keep more people safe. But again, there's those chances of things happening in STDs and worse that, and then, drug-resistant STIs and things like that. And then you get to the place where it's like, well, are we going to have another HIV type of thing? Again, how many times are we going to poke the bear? I don't know. But the regular testing, I actually saw that it does work. And so, for example, you had hostesses that would get tested and they come up hot, and then they were not allowed to work in that establishment until they got medication, things cleared up, they got tested again, and they were clean. I don't know. It's just something about that just didn't appeal to me. it's kind of like when you see like Thailand and things like that in that one street, or was it Thailand um, or I don't know, Pattaya. I think it's Philippines. I don't know. But in Thailand, you've got Rose Street or whatever it is, and it's just nothing but, prostitution is illegal in Thailand. It is. But you see that one street is just lined with, and people are doing it. People are doing it, and they're doing it, and things are being exchanged so that people can do it. And it just doesn't. Seeing people guys walk down that street and oogling over women and be like, "Oh, I'm getting some tonight," and all this stuff, and it's like, how many tens of thousands of people have done that? I don't know. That just turns my stomach. It's just, maybe I'm old school. Maybe I'm old school. I don't know. Let's see. Well, prostitution is here to stay if you make it legal or illegal, which is true. Just look at what happened during prohibition of alcohol. Oh, yeah. 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 There was that, A little bit of Irish coffee going on. It will still happen. And so, I don't know. I just think that if Colorado does that, you're going to have some secondary problems, and people are going to be like, was this really worth it? Kind of like with the legalization of marijuana. If you go back, and I've talked to a number of people that still live in Colorado, that's where we left from, and they're like, yeah, lifelong Coloradans are planning to leave Colorado because of how bad it got, because of the legalization of marijuana and all the after effects of that. So it's just, it was a drain on law enforcement. We actually had problems I experienced firsthand where like we had homeless people and, looking at houses and stuff like that. And then they parked their little, crappy little thing, and they're staying on a road that was close to where we were living. And it's like, they're not supposed to be there. We called the police show up, and they're like, well, they're not doing anything wrong. It's like, well, they're on land that is not theirs. They're publicly urinating and defecating, and you're like saying, oh, well, they're not causing any problems. Law enforcement in that example got so lax and they're so overworked that they're like, unless a serious crime is being committed, don't worry about it. Which is not how you keep communities safe. I don't know. It's just saying. Let's catch up on some comments here. Tasteful Thickness says the only reason we have criminality and legalization at levels they are is because we live in a progressive era that encourages law breaking and degeneracy. I don't know. Maybe. But then we also have laws and legalization that make communities better, and to establish a baseline of behavior of how we should treat people or not treat people, and for the betterment of that society. So, but the problem is when you get to the progressive part, if you start manipulating and changing the things, kind of like what we see, let's change this. And it's like, oh, we're going to help these drug addicts by giving them clean places to shoot up and giving them drugs to shoot up. And it's like, well, when the government does it in California, that's treatment. But if I did that to a drug addicted uncle and I gave him clean syringes and clean drugs, I would be called an enabler. I would be enabling his addiction, which is bad on all levels, because I am enabling him to continue in his addiction and not get treatment. So that's the danger of progressive. I'm not saying that all progressives are bad or the word progressive is bad. It just depends on how it's being used and whether that could be a bad thing or a good thing. All it takes is for people to be brave enough to enforce laws. Yeah, that's true. Let's see what else. Worked really well during Prohibition on that enforcing laws. Yeah, that was kind of crazy. But But again, it's like that was an instance of where they criminalized that, and then there were so many more crimes that came, and criminal enterprises ended up popping up because they were bringing alcohol into those dry states and so on and so forth. So crime went up that way. But conversely, kind of like what we saw with the legalization of marijuana, it's not that the marijuana is now legalized, and so boom, the cartels don't, strike for, against the cartels. The cartels are just like, okay, well, no more marijuana. We're going to push meth, and we're going to push fentanyl. We're going to push a bunch of heroin. We're going to push all these hard things even more to make up for the losses that we got since marijuana was criminalized. And I can tell you from being in law enforcement in over 11 years in Colorado, that was exactly what happened. And it is still happening to the point of where it's like, it's insane. The stories I've heard from other law enforcement is insane. Dun, dun, dun. You don't get to make these arguments anymore. Bukele is the rebuttal? I don't even know what Bukele is. Okay. I'll have to look that up. George says, I just don't believe people who wrote the bill took all the potential consequences into consideration, but when this passes, it will bite them in the butt. Yeah, similar to the legalization of Mary Jane, I think. We got Pyro here, is on board, says hello, 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 hello. Good stuff. Hey, we got Hack. Hack 37 is here, about to fly to Dubai and then Singapore. Build up a fighter jet's getting me antsy to flying home safely. No fireworks here. Hopefully you have a safe trip. Hey, have a good trip. Yeah, enjoy. Dun, 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 dun. We got some weird comments here. Thickness says this chat room has free crackers. I'm not sure what that means. Saltines or I'm not sure. The only time I've had saltine crackers is when I was sick. That is honestly the chicken soup and the saltine crackers. That was kind of a thing. George says another potential side effect would, if fact, desperate addicts would now just be told to sell your body to feed your addiction, since it's all legal now. Ooh, yeah, I know. Ooh. Ouch. That's, ooh. Let's not consider that. Bukele is the president who turned the most dangerous country in the world into one of the safest. Well, what country is that? Oh, okay. Veritas pops up, says he's the president of El Salvador. Tasteful is referring to how he put the cartel members into concentration camps. Oh, okay. And then that's kind of similar to Duarte in the Philippines. He was super hard on crime. He just kind of went against due process and forego all, basically sent out death squads to just shoot up and exterminate drug dealers and cartels. But then there was other people that were involved in the trampling of people's, legal rights. There's that. Kind of reminds me of Che Guevara in Cuba and the death squads and things like that. And Duarte, I think he's still under investigation, or he's in court or something. It didn't turn out well for him. Kind of like the president of Korea, he got life in prison for the martial law thing. So yeah, the whole thing in that with the prostitution deal in Colorado, I see both sides. But kind of like what George popped up is that now you're going to have people that are homeless. They're going to sell themselves. And, look at the STD rate is going to go up from there. Again, criminalization. I don't know. I'm just so glad I'm married. I don't have to worry about that stuff. George says, I like saltines. They're good with chili. Oh, that's true. That's true. Saltines and chili. I haven't had that in a long time. The other thing we're going to talk about is the Chatgpt killer. here in Korea, they had this lady. She's in her 20s, amazingly so. And she unalived 2 people by poisoning them. So we're going to take a look at what she did. So let's jump into that. Suspect used Chatgpt in planning drug killings. Queries about drug-laced drinks emerge as key factor in determining criminal intent, and there she is, the one in the hat. And they always cover up and everything, and so you can't see who they are. I don't know. Surname Kim. Killing of, or the unaliving of 2 men at hotels in Seoul in Gangbuk-gu. Drug-laced drinks found to have used Chatgpt in planning the crime. She's in her 20s, accused of giving drinks contaminated with benzodiazepines, or whatever that is, that she had been prescribed for mental illness. It's like, acting a little crazy. You're going to put some in your drink to fix that. Yeah, it just ended up... They revealed that she had entered questions into Chatgpt about the risk of administering drugs. What happens if you take this with alcohol? Or how much would be considered dangerous? Could it be fatal? Yeah. Intent? Probably. Kim referred to prosecutors under detention on murder charges rather on charges of inflicting bodily injury resulting in death, as police concluded that she had intent to kill based on her online history. Lesser charge applies when a suspect intended to cause the injury but unintentionally caused the victim's death. Yeah, she's cooked. Kim repeatedly asked questions related to drugs on Chatgpt. She was fully aware that consuming alcohol with the drugs could result in death. And she killed 2 people. Prior to the serial motel drug killings, the woman allegedly attempted a similar crime in December last year. There's a little craziness going up in her head while at a cafe parking lot. She gave a man in his 20s who she was dating at the time a drink mixed with drugs, causing him to lose consciousness. He survived and was not a life-threatening condition. Kim admitted to police that she mixed her psychiatric meds into a hangover drink and gave it to her victims, but denied any intention to kill them. I don't know. Chatgpt says otherwise. Police have conducted psychological assessment and determined her profile. Findings may be taken into account in the decision-making process. So yeah, looks like she's going to be... what do you say? You know, she did the deed twice, 3 times. The first time it didn't work out like she planned, but the second 2 she nailed it. So something to be said for, continuing on and being focused and attaining your goals. Just depends on what those goals are. Ferritha says, can't wait until someone uses one of those AI bots to bioengineer a virus for the next pandemic. Stop it. I'm using Chatgpt professionally. I definitely found some ways by accident to build pretty bad things. And this is on the internet forever. Just keep that in mind. So if you get in trouble, that won't happen. That's funny though. Accident. Found some ways by accident to build pretty bad things. Mm-hmm. I bet there's stories behind that. And you imagine, the things that you search for online in Chatgpt or Grok or Gemini or whatever, the ones that you end up using, how I look for stuff that is kind of like, what the hell does that mean? Like mogging or cope and see. That has now suddenly became a thing, and I'm old, so I don't know what that is. And so I look up stuff like that. But I've looked up some very questionable things because I don't know what they are. And, I'm just ignorant of those things. But it's kind of... when you look at people that are like, and there's been other cases where people use the internet and it's like, hey, search on how to unalive somebody, how to get rid of the body, how to dismember, how to do this and that and a whole 9 yards. the sky's the limit with AI. Plan me the perfect unaliving situation of and put in all the variables, and what is Chatgpt going to give you all those things? And then if the person dies and then they look at your, yeah, that probably, interesting. Or what you do, here's what you do. Go on somebody else's computer. Do that on their computer. And then you do it and you say, well, so-and-so over here, you might want to check him out because he always seemed kind of weird and kind of odd. And, he had some beef and, they had arguments and stuff like that. I don't know. That might be worth looking into. I always kind of couldn't put my finger on it. But yeah, that guy always and then they go and check his computer and they find all the things that you search for on his computer. That could be a movie. That could be a movie. That would be interesting. Ferris says, well, I am inquisitive, and ChatGPT is not known to shut up. That's where NordVPN comes in. Just use your buddy's computer. Yeah, Nord helps, but it's not. You can still track that stuff. I'm not saying I know a guy who works in high-level government alphabet organization that told me such, but you can track that stuff. Hypothetically speaking, of course. So VPNs that you can purchase and use that is available to normal human beings, those are akin to, I'd say, like padlocks. They keep honest people honest to some degree. It's like, oh, use a VPN so nobody can track me. Yeah, minimizes, some hacking here and there. But for the people that are really, really knowledgeable, they can find you. They can, the whole night, they can do all that. So yeah, that's just like, for an experienced hacker, it's like just stepping up one step. It's not a big deal for them. So yeah. Ferrithus says, yeah, VPN is just a tunnel. If you use the internet, receiving site can still track you, but VPN tunnel your own private network, you can't break. That's true. George says that he avoids AI. Maybe I'm paranoid, or it's just I don't really have any use for it. That could be. Almost retired, 78 says VPN tracking. Yes, agreed. And again, it's a good thing. We have VPN. I mean, we live overseas and we use VPN, and because we can get, like for streaming services and things like that, some countries are limited in what you can or can't see or listen to or whatever. So VPN, you can, tag that, and it's like you're in another country or in another, location, and you have more access, kind of like Netflix. And it's not illegal, Netflix. And if you have Netflix in the United States, and then you go to another country and have Netflix, what those two Netflix offers is not the same. I don't know if you know that. Of course, all you people are smart, so you do know that. So, but yeah, they don't offer the same things or the same shows. So by switching your VPN to a different country or location, you can get some of the shows that you couldn't get on the Netflix that you have from your home country, which is kind of cool. I kind of enjoy that. We've got Netflix from Korea. So of course, a lot of Korean stuff, but there are shows that are on the Korean Netflix that aren't on the US side of the house. And so, yeah, it's kind of interesting to be able to switch and move and, see different things. And if you can't find it on this Netflix, you can find it on another Netflix. So that's kind of good. It's useful. For the average law-abiding citizen, it's a good thing. For nefarious activities, it's probably not a good thing. So, yeah. Other than that, what else do we got going on? Like I said, we're printing up stuff. Here in Korea, we got... it should be noted, I forgot to bring this into play. When we talked about President Yoon, the ex-Korean president that got life in prison, His things are not done yet. And I almost forgot this. Let's get back to that. So it ends up that he's going to face 6 more trials after his life sentence for insurrection and martial law. So, yeah, he's going to calendar criminal trials extending through at least half of the year, deepening the legal exposure created by the failed martial law attempt has already brought him a life sentence. We know that. But he has 6 pending trials filed by 3 special prosecutors that were appointed by the National Assembly. So it's not over. It's just like kind of what we ended up seeing with like Johnny Somali and how he did a bunch of things and his court cases are going on and on and on and on. The interesting thing is with this, they kind of fast-tracked this to where, boom, you got life in prison. And then now they're going to have all the other cases follow up behind that, and then they'll have separate sentencing for those cases, and those will be added on, which is very different than how they're dealing with Johnny Somali here in Korea, where they put like the misdemeanor charges and then all of those, and then he pled guilty. So now he's a criminal here in Korea, and then now he has other charges, and any punishment he gets is going to be worse because he's not a first-time offender because he pleaded guilty, and now they have other charges coming in. So they just keep going charge after charge after charge. And Johnny Somali, it's been a long, drawn-out thing. So I was pretty surprised when they came out so fast with this ruling and the punishment of ex-President Yoon getting life in prison. I thought this would be dragged out for years, kind of similar to what I've seen in other trials and Johnny Somali and so on and so forth. But apparently he stepped on enough toes that they're like, nope, we're gonna slam you big time. So yeah, that was very interesting. Each team brought up 2 cases covering charges ranging from espionage, perjury, to abuse of power, election law violations. He also received a 5-year sentence last month for obstructing the execution of arrest warrant by blah, 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 raising likelihood of additional prison time. So yeah, he's got 5 years before that. So now he's got life plus 5. The most serious among the cases is so-called Pyongyang drone case, overseeing a panel of Seoul Central District Court that specializes in complex criminal matters. He conspired with senior defense and intelligence officials to send drones into North Korea multiple times to create conditions favorable for declaring martial law, leading to the exposure of military secrets as when one of the drones crashed near Pyongyang. This wasn't like, yeah, I woke up this morning, hey, let's have coffee, a donut, oh, and let's declare martial law. No, this was all planned out a long, long time ago. This is, yeah, he's not as stupid as he looks. He remains in custody. A separate bench at the same court is hearing a perjury case connected to the prime minister. He got 11 years. Prosecutors alleged that Yoon testified that martial law order was to be issued after cabinet deliberation, even though he imposed it immediately once a quorum was met. The court will hold a second pre-trial, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. 2 cases brought by special investigating the death of a Marine corporal begins substantive hearings in March. I didn't know anything about that. One panel will examine allegations that Yoon pressured military investigators after reacting angrily to early findings naming a Marine commander as a suspect. Oh, it must have been not related to the martial law, but a previous issue. I think I barely remember something about that. A separate case where Yoon appointed the former defense minister as ambassador to Australia to help him evade questioning. Send him away. He can't answer questions. And then they're going to examine allegations involving his wife, who is also charged Yoon with receiving free political opinion polling worth about 270 or 186,000 won ahead of the 22 election, violating campaign finance rules. That's going to be March 17th. Another case of false information during the campaign. What are the odds? Politicians giving false information. Yeah. Korean law instructs each counsel to complete first stance trials within 6 months of indictment, but several of Yoon's cases have yet to fully enter the evidentiary stage. While the insurrection verdict already imposing the country's heaviest punishment short of the death penalty, the remaining rulings will determine how far Yoon's criminal liability may expand and how long the former president could ultimately remain behind bars. And with that right there, that tells me that, and like I said, he might not serve life. There's been cases of where people have gotten sentencing, politicians and famous people, and then they got let out early. So, yeah, I knew the death penalty wasn't going to be a thing because they haven't done that since 1997. It'll be interesting. So he's got life plus 5, and then he's going to get more time with that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens with that. So yeah, it's some very interesting things that we got going on here in Korea with that. But a lot of people don't like him. And it was bad for business. It was bad for the economy. It ended up, it just wasn't good. But then you still have a ton of people that support him unequivocally. They're like, oh, free him. You know, it's almost like he's a religious figure and he's being martyred, and these people are still standing up and, you know, oh, free Yoon, free Yoon. And it's like, wow, even with all this information and what he did, and I'm just a foreigner, you know, I live here in Korea, I have a visa, and looking at the Korean Constitution, it's pretty clear on what he did was wrong. It's like, yeah, it's pretty wrong, pretty wrong. But 6 more trials, that's crazy, crazy, crazy. Let's see, what else do we got going on? I think that's about it. We're still doing some 3D printing. Like I said, we're printing out the paint holders, the little paint rack things for the desk over there. And if we take a look how nice and clean the desk is. Look at that. We got the paint holders, got little trays, all that stuff. Thing is coming out pretty well. So yeah, we've got that going on. Let's see. I think we've caught up on all the comments. Interesting. So we will see what goes on. The other thing that's going on here in Korea, we've got a lot of Chinese coming over here to Korea during the Lunar New Year and the holidays. It's interesting because Korea made a deal with China that they could come over here without a visa. Basically, you know, just vacation. You come here, it's easy. You don't have to, you know, kind of like an e-visa type of thing, just tourist visa, boom. It's super easy to get. Japan, on the other hand, Japan and China have been going at it, you know, back and forth. And so China says, oh, we're not going to go to China anymore, or we're not going to go to Japan anymore. So Japan tourism from China dropped about 50%, 50 or 55%. And then we've seen an uptick in the number of Chinese coming during Lunar New Year here in Korea, which is like 40 or 43% increase over last year. So yeah, they're getting a lot of business. I don't know. Ferret has asked, how did printing those paint holders with the custom supports turn out? They turned out fantastic. It was incredible. Matter of fact, you know what I'll do? Let's look at it and I'll show you. So I do 3D printing. So for those people that are wondering, I do 3D printing and make stuff kind of like that paint holder thing that I showed you here, you know, and where things like this that overhang, you're going to need something to support this because you can't just lay plastic in midair. You need some type of support. And with 3D printing, what happens is that the slicing program, the computer program will build a support tree kind of thing, or a structure to support those overhangs, and you should be able to print it out. But some of the overhangs on there, the underside of those areas are really, really rough. So, matter of fact, let's move this up. Well, let's do this. For the people that don't know, let's take a look and I'll show you what we got going on here. So We got everything? I think we got everything. Seems like my screen size changed in some aspect. I'm not sure how that happened. So anyway, so I've got a number of items here. So kind of like we've got the paint rack. You know, I made this little thing in Tinkercad, and then just did some little, you know, some little 90-degree kind of octagon type of shape things. And what I ended up doing is putting them onto the model. Veritha says, nice. Last time I saw them, it was just test pieces. Glad they work out. Oh, they do. They work really well. He says, people that don't know, Steve is a Tinkercad magician. No, I think I do well, but I don't think I'm a magician. But thanks for the compliment. So instead of having the program, the slicing program, build supports automatically, and having that bottom piece, like right there, be all kind of messed up, what I ended up doing, and this was from watching Slant 3D, is I was able to make my own little support there. That's what it is in red. And so be able to put that on there. And so you don't need the supports. This support that I made comes off super easy because it's like 0.2 thickness there. I mean, the thickness between here and here, that side and that side, is like 0.8. So again, we just kind of made a little thing like that, and you see at 0.8 is how thick it is. And so all I did is just kind of put it in the middle there, boom, and then, okay, come on. Oh, now it's going to say I got to redo everything. All righty. That'll give me time to eat some donut. Excuse me, I wanted to get that out of the way. Friday's donut day. So anyway, so what I ended up doing is just kind of get this half thing here, which is called a roof, round roof. And then I took this, and so you can see the dimensions, and just kind of did that. And then what I ended up doing is I just basically combined these things together, union join, so they're all one piece. And then to create an even smaller area to support, what I ended up doing is we can basically just kind of do this. And let's say we just had a 90-degree overhang. And what we'll end up doing, we'll do that. And so now, we don't need this to be so high. And so what we can end up doing, and we're going to set this to 0.1 millimeter. So now, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of, and we can just left click, 1, 2, 3. We can do that. We'll go up to the top left and we'll duplicate it, and then we'll just kind of move the other one over. And we could do something like that. And so there's like 0.1, 0.2. You could probably get away with that. That's pretty thin. And then all I ended up doing, of course this is simplified. So there is the support, and then this is easy to tear away. So when we take, you know, we have a little bit of contour, you know, a little bit more finagling that we have to end up doing. But that is added onto the piece. And so, for example, I did the same thing here. So I just made one like that. And then click that. We'll copy. We move this over. And then we can just zoom in here. And we can see, yeah, I've got a lot of material there. But let's see if we can rotate this around. So it's a lot there, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to move this to the center, which is about right there. And then there are my supports. We select both of these together. We'll group those and boom, there you go. So I export that and then we print that out. That's our little shelf that we got. And so now what we'll end up doing, let's go over here to the desk and I have one that I just printed out. So I'll show you how easy it is. So we want, what camera view do we want? We'll do this one here. I'll just get rid of that and I'll show you how well they turned out. Retired 1960 says, I would love to hang around Florida, fish fries waiting. All righty, well go get that fish, man. Go for it. Thanks for coming on the stream, checking it out. Be sure to like and subscribe and come back. So here is, let me see if we can get some more light on the subject there. Oh, that's not what we want. We want, not that one. Oh, did I pull it out? I think I moved the, seriously? Really? That's what we're going to do? Let me try to reset. Now the camera wants to be squirrely. Seriously? Really? That's what we're doing? Okay, we'll use the other camera. If we can see this. So there we can see our support. And we've got that little bit of play in there. And this comes off quite easily. So there's a good view of it. If I can just kind of get my, so you can see how we've got that there. So now what we can end up doing, I can keep this in frame, and boom. See how easy that came off? Super, super easy. So I can do the same thing on here. And boom. So a little bit of that with a fingernail. And so now we can go ahead and we could just put this on our and there we go. We got our little shelf. So let me see if we can move that up a little bit. Yeah. So now we got our little shelf that we made and we are good to go. So now I could take like one of my other miniatures and we could put him there and now we got our little shelf. So yeah, it's turned out pretty good. Pretty darn good. So yeah, it worked out fantastic. So those fin supports, those have been awesome. So everything that I printed, including, I've got a number of items. So if we go back to this, so I've got paint racks, I've got like a 5 paint rack holder, I've got a 10, I've got this thing over here, which is a holder for a ultrasonic cutter, and so I did the same thing with, you know, this here, and made the breakaway supports, which worked great. Just makes life so much easier. And yeah, I'm going to do another little one like right here. So basically, and so we could take something like this. Let's make it a different color. And so what I could end up doing, and we'll do this. We'll move this over here. And we want to have a little bit of room like that. And then we could just bring this up. Now this is going to be a little bit different. because we need to make some concessions, and you'll see why. Because we need to have some little parts going. No, I didn't want all of that. I just wanted this and this. Then we go over like that. But with this, with taller items, what ends up happening is we still need some supports, and this is kind of flimsy. So the thickness is 0.08 millimeters. You could make it like 1 millimeter, but the best way would be able to take all of this. Let's just back this up a little bit so we got a more pronounced gap there. And then we'll just grab this and we'll move this until it intersects and joins that other piece. We want some little connectors of the green to go on to the red shelf area, and so what we can end up doing is taking our hole box, it's a hole, and now we can make this, let's make it like, I don't know, 12 something. And we can drop this down. And we'll just kind of do this. And then we'll copy this. And we'll raise this up. And we'll just go up like, you know, we'll have a little bit of a gap there. And so we have that gap, and that'll be the bridge from the green fin base or support, and it'll go actually attach to the model. And so we probably want to make that probably just, if that's like 0.2. And I think that's what I used last time. 0.2. So we've got a little bit of a thing there, and then we could just copy this and it'll repeat that all the way up. So we've got that little bit of bridging going across to hold that fin in place so it doesn't wobble, and then it goes up and does that. So we're going to select all of these, and then we'll just pull them in like so. And then we'll click the green, we'll unionize all of those, and boom, there's our little thing that we got there. So basically you can do the same thing, and then again we'd go up here and we could do, I guess we could do something kind of like this, and like that. Let's make this a little bit smaller. We'll copy this. Take this on the other side, and let's make this transparent so we can see what we're doing. So we'll grab this, we can do that, and like that, and I think we'll be good to go. So we can take that out of transparent, select that in our green, we'll put those all together. And what we end up, we'll have our little piece. Now we got that little green piece, so we can get rid of that. We'll just do that. We'll make this smaller. And we'll just move that over here to get rid of that floating little green piece there. We'll do that. We'll group those. That's gone. And then, yeah, so you can see we've got our little piece there, and you could adjust that. This is just kind of, well, that's a little rough. Let's pull this out a little bit. But basically like that. And so now we have the supports, we've got our little bridges there, and then just to kind of make that look nice. And there is our support that we could use for these here. So let's just group those together. We'll just make them green. And then we could do the same thing. Just hit copy and put that onto the next one. Like that. We'll do another one. And just send that down the road. click off of that, and then we'll do, that's pretty good. And do the same thing, and boom, there it is. So there's your supports. And you don't have to worry, you get so much cleaner, overhangs on stuff like this. It's not boogered up. The ones that I did prior to this, it ended up that they were really, they're really kind of rough. And so I had to sand them, especially the first few paint racks that I did. I had to do a lot of sanding on them because that overhang was really, really rough. So yeah, it turned out pretty good. And again, like you saw, I did that little shelf on there. Built those two shelves. We take a, see if we can zoom in a little bit. And yeah, those were able to work out pretty well. And then we got all the other paint racks and everything. We got all those into play. So yeah, turned out pretty good. Turned out pretty good. I think it worked out well. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So that worked out well, the fin supports, and I imagine you could do this according to Slant 3D. I was amazed at how well they worked. I was like, how well could it work? It works out pretty damn good. So yeah, we've been getting some real good results, and imagine being able to make parts. And like I said, let me show you what I'm talking about here. The problem with some slicing programs, and we'll take a look-see. So we got our Creality slicer. And so we've got our pieces in here, and we've got these that already have those pre-made automatic supports. So we don't need anything. But if we end up kind of like, do I have one? Yeah, there we go. Come on, baby. There we go. It's a little slow this morning. But because this is such a big overhang, if I go and I do supports and then I go ahead and slice this plate up, what ends up happening is that I will get supports and I won't get that super nice overhang. So while this will indeed support it, the problem is on the underside of this little hook here, and we'll kind of, you're kind of limited, but layer by layer as we go down, it's not going to be perfectly smooth. And because we've got this interface material, all of that, it's going to be marred. You're going to have some supports are going to be on there, but when you take those off, you're going to have some marring on that orange part right there. Now you could do some tree supports, like if we do this, which is a different kind of an organic, they say tree support because it looks like a tree. And when this pops up, you have a little bit less material, but you're still going to have some contact points of where the support, the green support, touches the model. And you're going to get marring on that underside, and it's not conducive to a nice overhang. And I tell you, it is night and day when we do something, where we have a support where we make it like that. And this is an earlier one where I didn't even, if we take a look at this, I did that little bit there. But it's just been a game changer. It has been a game changer for doing parts and things like that. It has been great. So yeah, we're printing out another plate. Matter of fact, we're printing this plate out right as we speak. And will it work? Probably not. We'll have to go back to details. There it is. So yeah, we're printing it out, and those supports have worked every single time. Excuse me. It hasn't failed yet. So knock on wood, that will continue to be a thing. So yeah, that's what we got going on. Man, what is going on? Ding. Okay. So that's what we got going on. Pretty amazing on what we can end up doing with that. I was pretty impressed with it. And again, that's going to be a great tool in the toolbox. Of course, the higher you go, you might have to have a thicker support fin, but you can reduce it down once you get towards that top and have the smallest amount of contact with the model, still providing support, and it breaks off cleanly. So yeah, it is quite the thing. It is. Thank you. It is great. It is really great. So many other things that I've made and printed out, it's like, I wish I had known this sooner. But now that I do, it just makes life so much easier, especially for stuff like this. Something that's got to go into the pegboard holes, if it's marred up with tree supports or auto supports, I'd have to sand it down until it fit. And then, I got multiple hangers on those things. So I got to sand them all down, 3 or 4 or 6 or whatever. You're looking at like 4 of them right here. But with those breakaway supports, look at how nice and clean that is. That is like awesome. You can't beat that. So pretty incredible. I enjoy it. I enjoy it quite. Yeah, I got some issues with my camera stuff going on. Probably because we'll continue on. Okay, well, there's the other camera that popped up. I don't know. But that's what we got going on. Okay, so anyway, I digress. We've do some 3D printing stuff, found some cool ways to support some items, which is nice. I know, it's just... Seriously? I think we're back. Whew. Start screwing with stuff and everything goes to hell. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Yeah, thank you for the insight on that. I've been having some issues with that. So anyway, I just need to set it, forget it, and not touch it, apparently. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So all of the stuff that we talked about President life in prison for President Yoon, legalization, prostitution in Colorado, Chatgpt. Oh, we didn't even get on the VA crazy rule this is another good one that'll cook you. This will piss you off. It's just like, I forgot about this. I'm a veteran, retired Army, and so this is an issue. So the VFW raises serious concerns over VA disability rating policy interim rule change. So they published a rule that immediately changes how disability ratings are evaluated, prompting the veteran of foreign wars to send a letter to the VA Secretary, Doug Collins, who is a POS. For years, courts held that the VA could not reduce ratings based on the effects of medication. So in other words, let's say you get injured. And kind of like I got injured in the military. I was in a helicopter crash. I had various problems and things that happened to me that was like, yeah, it sucks. PTSD, the gift that keeps on giving. It never goes away. I am on medication for life. I also have other medications that I'll be on for the rest of my life. So the VA says, hey, yeah, you can't reduce ratings on that, and you'll get disability ratings that gets translated over to money and medical care. Because the whole idea is that before you came in the military, I was healthy as a horse. When I got out, next thing you know, I've got several herniated discs, I've got degenerative disc disease, I've got spinal stenosis, I've got chronic pain, I got sciatic pain, I've got neuropathy, I've got, all kinds of crap going on, GERD, this, that, PTSD, some other problems. And so I would get rated for those things because of the service to the country. And those ratings are not supposed to be reduced because of the effects of the medication. So even though I take medication for the problems that I have, it doesn't fix the problem. It really, really doesn't. It's like I'm still broke. I'm still messed up in the head. I just don't, how can I put this? I don't want to do this, you know, on the medication, but I still don't like people. I still don't like being around in crowds. When you get around big crowds, and there's times where I can freak out and stuff like that. And then the medication is, the whole deal is that before I was in the service, I was healthy, and now they used and abused me, and for the rest of my life, I'm broke. Okay, so they changed a rule that says, well, now this new rule. Let's get back to that, and says this new rule reverses that standard, directing examiners to rate disabilities as they present, including the impact of medication, and to disregard unmedicated baseline severity. So in other words, it's like, oh, you've got depression, you've got anxiety, you've got PTSD, you've got trauma and all this stuff. You got ED, you've got, you insomnia, all of that stuff. You've got all these problems, but you're taking medication, so we're going to reduce your ratings and reduce the amount of money that you get. And it's like basically saying you're fixed. No, it's not fixed. It is absolutely insane. And the VA justified the use of its emergency authority to issue the interim final rule without normal public comment by writing and quoting some BS. It is absolutely crazy. So anyway, long story short, it ends up, like Ferrithus says, it ends up that it looks like they suspended that rule now, so that's good. Here's the problem, though. It's still on the books. And the word was with the rule is that it wouldn't, so if you're already rated, you're going to be fine. At least what some people are saying is you're going to be fine with your ratings. It's the new people, or if you file another claim because your current conditions get worse, you can get totally reevaluated and, oh, you're on medication, you're fixed, so we're going to drop everything. If it's truly a before and after thing, if I was healthy, I wouldn't need medication. And just because you're on medication doesn't mean that you don't deal with shit every single day. And then there's still conditions that I have, like I got tinnitus and stuff that is constant ringing 24/7. I got severe hearing loss. There's some things that that you can't get medication for. Nothing will fix that. Then you have secondary conditions like depression and so on and so forth that comes with tinnitus. I get migraine headaches at times, so I have to take medications for that. But according to this rule, you take medication, so you're good now. That's not the case, but the rule has not been taken away. And the thing with that is, the problem is the rule hasn't gone away. And the other problem is that the Government Accounting Office has been doing studies and surveys of seeing how they can reduce veterans' benefits in order to save money. Now, this was a number of years ago, and I brought it up in some videos, and people pounced on me, and especially on social media, where, leaving posts and comments and saying, hey, the GAO is studying this and that to reduce VA benefits. And veterans will attack veterans like nobody's business. It's like chum in the water. The worst offenders are veterans themselves. And people would cuss me up and down and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. They can never do that. They would never do that. They would never reduce our benefits. And it's like, dude, you haven't been around long enough. Yes, they will. When I came into service, it was like, you come into service, you retire, you'll get lifetime medical, will be paid. Well, then they changed it, and so now I got to do co-pays. What about that? I was promised, and then through a series of changes to the contract that I had no power whatsoever, Suddenly I went to getting free medical care for life to, oh, by the way, now you have to pay a yearly fee, which is, $350, $60 a year I have to pay. On top of, I have to pay copays every time I see a doctor, which is 50, 60, 70 bucks depending on where you live and the treatment or doctor that you're seeing. So now I have to do copays. So it went from free medical for life to now I'm doing copays to now I also have to pay a yearly fee on top of that, which goes up every single year. Our benefits are being slowly eroded away. And when the GAO ended up doing these studies and saying, hey, here's how we can cut funding, we can save money by cutting benefits to veterans. And they did this before. And again, I had people who are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And what happened? They ended up reducing things like sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is where you don't get enough oxygen. You quit breathing multiple times within an hour during the entire night, and that is severely bad. So you get rated for sleep apnea, and if it's bad enough, it's 50%, which is kind of the norm because you need a machine to breathe for you, to help you breathe, because lack of oxygen, I don't know, that's kind of a bad thing. It is a bad thing. And so now you would get rated 50%. Well, at 50%, you're getting a monetary value and you're getting the medical care for the condition that was brought on by you being in service to the military, So they said, what we'll do is if you get reevaluated, you're still going to get rated, but we're going to drop your rating, or we can drop your rating down to 0%. So you still get medical care. You'll still get your CPAP supplies and this and that, but you're not going to get that money. And it's like in regular normal job, I wouldn't have this condition or other injuries or situations. I wouldn't have those in a normal job from working. So they said, oh, I know guys, veterans, who have had 50% disability with sleep apnea. They put in for some other claims because their conditions get worse over time. They don't get better. And when they filed those new claims or secondary claims, they were reevaluated on their sleep apnea. They ended up with 0 rating. It's still rated, but it's just 0. That's bullshit. Fairth says, Straight Form Project 2025 cut more than $37 million from vet services members' benefits by limiting eligibility for service-related disability benefits, disability rating awards, and so on. And then they redid the mental health thing and all of this. Then here's the catch thing that they did, is they said, okay, they put the rule that is really making it punitive, and it's keeping veterans from filing even though they have more serious or worsening conditions. As they said, well, if you let's say I put in, I'm having problems with a tinnitus, I have migraines, or I had a TBI and stuff like that, and I've got some other symptoms, and so I get that rated by the VA. I put that in to file for that TBI, let's say I get vertigo, okay? Person has vertigo, they file that as a claim, but all their previous claims that they have rating on, now all of those can get reevaluated with the new rules, which lowers the ratings that the VA gives so they can save money. Now you're having veterans that are having a choice of saying, hey, well, we're not going to touch you. Your ratings are going to be fine. Your ratings are fine as long as you don't file any more claims. So what this is all built upon is to punish veterans and making it so they don't want to file any more claims, because if they do, they're going to get downgraded. That's stupid. And so that's detrimental to veterans. And then on top of that, it's all about saving money. And it's like, well, bitch, seriously? Really? From the politicians that vote for their own pay raises, who have never, ever voted no against a pay raise for themselves? That's rich coming from you all. What about the politicians that get health care that no other normal U.S. citizen can get? Only the politicians can get it. And it's way better health care than any of us get, unless you're rich. And what about the lifetime pensions that politicians get when they serve only one term? That is total BS. But yeah, let's cut the veterans. And the thing is, this is not going to go away. This is not going to go away. Fairtha says, I feel sorry for all the vets that didn't vote for this. It doesn't matter if the thing is, they still did this. They did it before. And veterans are like, no, this is bogus. This is BS. And that's what the government did. Because we don't offer anything. We are a dying breed. And we're such a small part of, the populace as time goes on that they can get away with it. It's kind of the same reason why they don't increase, the Social Security. It's just, but every time it comes around to re-election, every politician will, Social Security, we need to help our seniors, and I vote, if you vote me in, I'll help seniors, and, look at their, it's barely making it, and then as soon as they get elected or re-elected, boom, they don't do jack for Social Security. It's same thing with veterans. We get some care and for the things that we do. I will never, ever get better with the problems that I have, depression, anxiety, PTSD, chronic pain, neuropathy, radiculopathy, spinal stenosis, all of that stuff, arthritis, degenerative disc disease for the herniated discs that I have, and those get progressively worse and worse every single year. And then you also have secondary things that come from those things that get worse that I could file for with the VA, but when they make rules that are punitive like this, and it's like, oh, well, it's a win-win either way. If you don't file, then, hell, we don't have to rate you, so we're going to save some money on that end. But if you do file, then we're going to re-look over everything, and because of some arbitrary rule change between Monday and Tuesday, they made the decision that, oh, you're getting rated this much, and now you're getting rated this much. That's bullshit. I don't know. Get me all mad. I'm all for vets receiving the care they need. It's the least we should provide. And it's the same thing with, it's amazing on how they're trying to cut veterans' benefits, but Social Security disability, let's not touch that. It's just odd. It seems like there is a directed response of, we're going to screw our veterans. And they're not doing it hard, fast, and heavy all at once. It's progressively over time. And so what do you end up doing? And so some veterans are not getting, I shouldn't say some, a lot of veterans are like, no, I'm not going to file anything because it's not worth it. I'm going to get screwed. People whose injuries or the problems or the issues that they got while serving in the military, that they can't do normal jobs, or they have problems of dealing with people. There's times where in crowds, I don't go to sporting events because I can't. There's too many people. I freak out. I used to treat myself self-administration of mass amounts of alcohol to deal with things like that, but that brought on other problems, so that's not an answer. There's things that I just can't do anymore because I can't. I'll freak out, and it's not good, And then there's the part of the depression, the anxiety, and the medication makes it more manageable, but I can't. My life is so topsy-turvy. I thank God I'm retired, but even though I'm retired, I still can't do normal things like normal other people do. I'm limited in some of the things that I can do, and so it'll never be normal again. So there's places and things that I would like to do, I would love to do, but I can't. But according to the VA, oh, you're fine, you're on medication, you're good. Thank God they suspended this, but it's only a suspension. What I was referring to is hard to feel sorry for the ones that voted for. Yeah. This was very much public information. They wanted to cut veterans' benefits. Yeah, but the thing is that this has been done And even I was just amazed that when I brought up that the GAO was doing studies and surveys, especially the studies on how they could cut veterans benefits to save money, people are like, they will never do that. You know, I'm a VSO, a veteran service officer, and the government will never do that. That makes zero sense. If the GAO is spending multi-millions of dollars to do a study on how to cut veterans benefits to save money, they don't do that just because. There is an agenda. And, you know, when that all happened and people were like cussing me out, they're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, mark my words, you'll see it. And it came to pass. And then suddenly veterans are up in arms and they're like, oh, this is terrible. It's like, I tried to tell you and you didn't listen. The government doesn't do things for no reason, especially the GAO when they do studies and stuff like that. So that's why I try to keep my ear to the ground and see, okay, well, what is the government doing? What are they studying and what are they surveying and what, you know, and this is the conclusion that we came to. And it's like, you read some of that stuff and you're like, holy crap, they want to cut us out totally. They want to phase it out to the point of where it's just like, and the writing has been on the wall for some time. They want to get it to where it's like, you know what, veterans, you lay down your life and you're going to be screwed till you're done, your last dying day. You're going to be on medication and worse, you know, people that have serious problems. You'll never be the same. You can never be fixed. We're going to reduce your ratings until eventually it's going to get to the point of where this interim rule that they just suspended, and it's not off the books, it's just suspended, that is going to be the final outcome. Eventually, you're going to have veterans that are going to be in the military, and they're going to say, well, you're going to get 0% rating. We will treat your medical condition or issue or thing that happened because of your military service, but you're not going to get any money for it. And we're going to, as long as you're taking the medication, you're going to be good, so we don't have to give you money, which we promised to do. But we're going to vote on our own pay raises every single year. Oh, y'all pissing me off now. Pissing me off. But yeah, thankfully this has been, suspended. But I don't know. It is just absolutely insane on what is going on. It is just absolutely crazy. So, Farith says the goal will become to medicate you down to 0, not make you get better. Oh yeah, and the most damaging thing was, yeah, you got a problem, but you're on medication. You know, there's been some videos of like, it shows a guy in a wheelchair. And there's the doctor, and it says, well, it's a VA doctor. Well, the VA, you're in a wheelchair, and that's in response to your condition, so you're good. You're rated 0 because we're paying for the chair. That's not the point. You can't have a normal, productive life. And the whole thing of being and having disability, kind of like Social Security disability, is that you have a condition or injury or illness or a combination. You cannot do the things that a normal person could do, so that's why you're getting that money. I would gladly trade in all of the money for being fixed. I'm all for cybernetics. Let's bring it on. Let's do a brain transplant where I can get rid of the shit that's going on in my head. I will gladly take that and not get any money. But good Lord, it is absolutely crazy. George asked, I forgot to ask, did you get the orc model fixed? No, not yet. Now that you brought that up, I forgot that because I got onto the 3D printing support fin kick and then redoing, the studio with laminate and all that stuff. I got off of that, but I need to get that. I need to put it on a thumb drive is what I need to do. Do I have a thumb drive? So I can put it on my... Seriously? I know I've got one somewhere. Somewhere? Thumb drive? No, not there. Paints, I got color wheels. Oh, I bet you I got one here. Yep, there we go. So I need to put it on the thumb drive. And then I need to take it over to my Windows laptop and see if I can fix that file and print that out, because I think that would be good. And I think I got something in my latte. Just a little coffee ground. Yeah, so I need to, thank you for reminding me of that. I appreciate that. You don't need expensive therapy. You only need more Xanax. Yeah, that's true. And the other problem with the VA, unfortunately, is that the VA is known for having the worst doctors. In my experience, the majority of doctors that are with the VA are doctors that couldn't make it in the civilian world. God's honest truth. There's a few good ones. I haven't met the good ones, unfortunately, during my time in Colorado. I don't know if it's just a Colorado thing, but the therapists and stuff like that, again, I've had therapy. I've seen doctors that work for the VA that you can't understand them because they're foreign. They can barely speak English, and I had doctors that didn't know the difference between right and left. I've had VA doctors yell at me because you don't know what you're talking about, and it's like, that's not the condition I have, and they're like yelling and screaming, and it's the one guy had the wrong file. It wasn't even my file, and it's like, no, I don't have that injury. It's what I have is on this and down this left side and this and that. No, he's trying to tell me that I was lying, and it ends up he had the wrong file. Yeah, absolutely insane. So, people that have had so many complaints against them that the only way that they can practice medicine is becoming a VA doctor, unfortunately, that's the experience that I've had. And when you have idiots like that, it's insane. You should just be able to go get, and you can now, you can go get with a civilian doctor and get reimbursed or get your care from a civilian doctor for your VA disabilities and stuff like that, which is great. That should have been done a long time ago, because the VA, in my opinion, the VA doctors and clinics are absolute tools. They're douchebags, they're worthless. I haven't met a good doctor, and I don't personally, the personal vets that I know face to face have never had a good VA doctor. So, yeah, it's just the over medication, things like that. Yeah, one guy's like, he kept having more problems. Well, he was having an adverse reaction to medications, and it ends up that they're like, well, we don't know what's going on. I think this is just another problem that's arising for a different issue that you need to file for, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what actually happened is this guy was taking these medications over here. He got prescribed this over here. These two medications were never supposed to be in the same body. He's having adverse reaction because those two medications are like severely, don't ever use these together. And this guy, almost, unfortunately, shed his mortal coil because of the BS. And it wasn't until he met with another doctor, a civilian doctor, while he was on vacation. It was like, yeah, tell me what else is going on. And he told him, he says, what medications are you checking? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, hell no. You cannot be taking those two medications together. That's why you're having all these adverse reactions. The VA doctor's like, oh, you're just, I don't know, something else going on. Yeah. George says, could be worse. Could be the Canadian system. Yeah, where they just kind of send you a kid and say, hey, we'll just unalive you. Yes, because universal healthcare is so terrible. They don't even need GoFundMe to GoFundMe their surgeries. I know. Korea's got universal healthcare. The majority of people in Korea pay like $100, $110 a month, and you have universal health care. Korea, little old itsy bitsy Korea, about 50 million people, but the United States can't figure it out. Even with Obamacare, that was only, 40 million people or something? And that was a disaster. Yeah. Ferritus says, very mixed back with doctors in the U.S. Was looking for therapy once, had a consult. Oh, I'm not prescribing therapy. I only want to help people get set up with the right meds. Yeah. That's crazy. And, story about getting therapy. Holy crow. So I've been through a number of therapists, and the last one was just like in the United States. So I'm getting therapy. And this lady has been, she's a psychologist, whatever lady. And so we're going through therapy, and, how does that make you feel? And the whole 9 yards. It was just, but every time it would start, she was like, I thank you for your service. It just really warms my heart that people like you go out. I just want to say thank you. That I really appreciate you. And it's like, okay, yeah, fine, yeah. No, you don't understand. And for like 5 minutes, she's going on about thanking and thanking and thanking. No, and it's just like, you need to shut up or I'm going to hit you. Because the normal person does not say shit like that. Say it once. Oh, thank you for your service. Okay, yeah, fine, got it. You're welcome, whatever. Can we deal with the issues at hand? And the whole thing is just kind of like, she was coming from a good place of wanting to help people, but it was just so fake. So fake. Nobody acts like this. It was so extreme of her thanking and the whole 9 yards. And it was just like, this lady's got issues. When she's crashed, she's going to crash hard. I think I've got issues. I can see from a mile away. She is a whole bundle of wacko. Yeah, but the therapy was just like, how do you talk to... It's funny because people are book smart, but they're not experienced in those things. So it's kind of like, well, you really need to deal with this and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, do you ever see anybody's brains up close? You ever see their hair, their head as a canoe? And you're telling me how to process this? Yes, through the process, to deal with this trauma, what you need to do is you need to realize and identify and in touch with your feelings. It's like, bitch, please. Seriously? Carry dead bodies, the whole 9 yards. That's you can say that's how that works, but until it's not like, well, if you follow these 10 rules for dealing with trauma, you will be able to overcome these things and become a successful, productive citizen of society, and your mental health will be so much better. Oh, yes. My experience, I was educated in some of the finest schools. And, okay, bitch, what is the worst thing that you ever experienced in your life? Oh, I think it was like I think I got a parking ticket one day, and I stubbed my toe. Oh, that was horrible. Oh, it was bad. And then a person cursed at me. They hurled insults at me from afar, and it was very traumatic. So I had to go back to the rules of dealing with trauma, and I was able to overcome it. Like, come on, seriously, really? If you haven't seen the inside of somebody's noggin, and you're trying to tell me how to get over that, and this is all you got to do. Oh, I hated that. That was the last one. Is not the last person. The last person was the lady, but the guy before that is when he said, well, you just need to do this. Why didn't you tell me this before? How long have we been doing therapy? Why didn't you just say, oh, well, you just need to do this? Seriously? Really? Why didn't you start with that? And then I could have been fixed, according to you, because I just have to do this. Oh, it pisses me off. Yeah. I actually have a question for you as a vet. Do you appreciate hearing from everyone, thank you for your service, or it's annoying? I don't like it. It makes me very uncomfortable. I don't like it. I see this everywhere as soon as someone says they're a vet, and I'm always torn. If it was me, I would be more annoyed with after the 50th person I don't know thanks me. Yeah, it's just, I don't like it. It's something I did. Sparky shows up and says, morning, morning. Yeah, and most people don't say that, you know. Of course, other veterans don't say that. Oh, thank you for your service. Oh, thank you for your service, fellow veteran. No, we don't say that shit. It's because it sucked, and it's like, thank you for dealing with all the shit that you deal with. That it just doesn't make sense to me. That's how I see it. Some people do say that. I've had conversations with people. I get recognized here from my YouTube videos a few times. And, oh, well, thank you for your service, you know, family members or whatever, contractors. And it's like, yeah, it's, okay, yeah, that's not my life anymore. So, you know, go say thank you to the people that are currently serving. That's just me. But and like the one therapist, every single time I met with her, it was like always 2 or 3 minutes. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate this and what you did. And it's like, okay, I got it the first 10 times, okay? And finally I told her, I said, you know, I get really annoyed when you say that. Once is good. You don't have to redo it every single time we meet. Well, you just need to feel appreciation. I says, I'm not feeling appreciated. It's fucking annoying, so stop. It's just like, Sparky says, when are you next in Seoul? I don't know. Let me see. The only time I'm going to be going up to Seoul is the 26th of this month, which is next week. But that's going to be for colonoscopy, so I'm not going to be meeting with anybody but the doctor. I'm going to be a little out of it, and then maybe in March, just prior to us going to the Philippines, I might be up in Seoul then. I got to get some medications refilled, so we'll do that. But that should be the next time that I'm in Seoul. But not under conditions where it's like, hey, go get a colonoscopy and, oh, let's have lunch. Probably not going to be feeling up to it. Let's see. George says my great uncle was at Iwo Jima. He didn't like hearing it for obvious reasons. I bet. Yeah. Ferretus noted. Don't thank Steve for his service. Yeah, just don't. That's just me. I don't know. And the other, I guess the veterans that piss me off are the ones who are like expecting that or demand that. Those are the worst. Thankfully, not a lot of people do that. But the ones that I have seen that if you need to thank me for my service, I've actually heard people say that. And it's like, bitch, you're a cook. Or you were admin. What do you mean? Thank you for your service. You pushed the pencil. You went camping. You didn't get deployed. You never saw anything. Nothing ever happened to you besides a paper cut. I really don't like those people, you know. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, okay. Let's see what happens. Sparky says, let's try for March. There might be our day in March. Let me see. What do we got going on? It is... Ooh, we got multiple appointments on that day in March. Because the wife and I, we try to do all of our medical appointments on the same day for both of us, so that way we don't have to make multiple trips. We've got multiple appointments for me and her on the 13th of March. So that's going to be like an all-day thing. That's going to be like getting up, getting like the train at like 7 or 8 or something like that to go to Seoul, and then we're not going to get back until late. So the 13th is I'm not going to be available because that's going to be all day at the hospital. We won't get done there until well, if her appointment is 5, maybe after 30 minutes, 5:30, then we have to get a taxi because the free shuttle bus isn't there. So that's another 20 minutes. So that'll say 5:30. That'll be 6. And I think we've got like a 7:30 train or something like that. So yeah, we're not going to be available on the 13th of March. That's just too busy of a day. And then shortly after that, we're going to be going to the Philippines. So yeah, no specific plans for heading up to Seoul other than the medical stuff. So yeah, maybe we're going to do some other time on that though. And then end of March into April, we'll be in Philippines. We come back, so March, April, and then in May we're going to Hawaii. So we're going to take a couple weeks there. So it'll be, I don't know, probably have to be after May, to be honest with you, if we can get back up there, to get back up there. So we'll see how that goes. So it is what it is. Let's see, what else? Yeah, so that's what we got going on. Interesting stuff. So, yeah. Fun stuff. But yeah, if you're ever down in this neck of the woods, we can set something up. If we can get some time, I don't know, making a dedicated, I don't know, maybe if we go to Seoul sometime, when the weather gets warmer, maybe we go to Namsan Tower or something, and then maybe we could meet for coffee or something. I don't know, Sparky, where exactly are you at in Seoul? I guess that also comes into play, depending on where we'd meet. So, and it would probably be with the wife, because we usually do everything together. So, yeah, shoot me an email or whatever, and we can work some stuff out and see if we can do that. So with that, some people have asked, what's my email address? And boom, there it is, officialthevariedlife@gmail.com. You can always do that. Give me 1 or 2 days, but I always answer my emails, not so much the comments on YouTube, because it's getting to the point of where it's like a lot, and I don't have enough hours in the day. But with the email address, I will definitely answer those, so you can check that out. Navenev says, have a great day, y'all. He's going to take off. Cool. We can do that, definitely. I think we're definitely going to wind this down. But we had some good discussion. We had some good talks about some stuff. Being retired here in Korea. We've got Hand Pink. Yeah. Swedish Forge. Have a good one. Fair at this. Steve is becoming famous. There's like 10 people, maybe. I don't get a lot of views, but I just kind of, I don't know. I like doing this. It's fun. I'm able to socialize without being around a lot of people, if that makes sense. Of course, now that you've kind of seen a little bit of a glimpse of the crap that I deal with, you kind of understand why. I kind of enjoy this, get some socialization without having to be around a bunch of people, which kind of freaks me out sometimes. So, and some days I just have bad brain days. That's what my daughter says, bad brain days, where I just don't want to be around anybody. So, Ferrithus says, so soon you need to make a Discord channel. I know, but that's more time away from doing stuff I want to do. I don't know. I'm not ruling it out. It's a possibility. George says, making bacon, eggs, and biscuits, gravy for supper tonight, doing something simple. Oh, that sounds good. Ooh. I think we'll go to Le Pain, which is a little cafe that we have across the street that does American-style breakfast. So they've got eggs, French toast, sausage, a little bit of greeny vegetable thing going on. It's pretty good. So I think we could do that today as well. So yeah, sounds good. Enjoy that. I haven't had biscuits and gravy in a minute. It has been a while. SOS. George says Discord is about to die with ID requirements. Really? Yeah, and that's something, an unrelated thing, but I think we're going to see more and more pushing for ID requirements for basically everything. And because of the problems of bots and, things like that. So. Ferrith says Discord would give you a place for people to post photos of their creations without Facebook weirdness, for example. That's cool. Ferrith says he'll think he'll have shrimp tonight. Oh, and that reminds me, a buddy of mine that is here, him and his wife are here. They're retired as well. We saw them yesterday, and he ended up having oysters. He loves oysters. And apparently these oysters didn't agree with him. So he was out for a few days with the stomach, and it wasn't good at all. So, yeah, if you're going to get seafood here in Korea, be close to the sea. That's all I'm going to say. So, but yeah, I haven't had shrimp in a long time. Generally, I don't do seafood like clams and lobsters. I used to, but then I don't. Because I still have a lot of problems with, especially like that stuff, and then pork. If I have too much of it, it causes problems with my GERD and stuff like that. I sound like an old person. I have problems with my GERD, and if I eat too much of this, and it's not. Yeah, I'm sounding old. So yeah, I haven't had lobster or shrimp in a minute. It has been a long time. I love the taste. It just doesn't like me. So, and apparently that's what happened with a buddy of mine who had the oysters. Either they didn't like him or they were bad. I don't know. It wasn't good for him, but he's better, so that's good. So, but we're going to meet with them, and matter of fact, we're going to invite them over to this Le Pain Cafe because they have the American style breakfast. They also have kimbap. Ooh, they got great kimbap. And then they have regular kimbap. They have keto. They have kimbap with like tuna and stuff like that. It's really, really good. George says, I like Discord, but when they start requirements, I'm out 3 months ago. They had a massive data breach and never fixed it. Veritha says, found Discord to be what forums in the 2000s used to be. Small server groups of people that share an interest. I'm more active on that than anything else. People know each other like back then. Yeah, that's kind of what I ended up seeing. And that's the other thing. It's going to take up more time to do that. Again, another thing to manage and oversee and do, and because I got the Facebook thing, which I'm not doing a lot on Facebook. The Facebook, I'm on there, but I just haven't really pushed a lot of the stuff that I do on Facebook. I'll show you what I mean. Because before, when I was on Facebook, I had tons of people. Now I got 10 friends. Yeah, 10 friends. That's so if you want to join me on Facebook, there it is. The link is in the thing there. And just do, just kind of showing some stuff. And it's geared more towards 3D printing and stuff like that. So, but I haven't been pushing it as hard as like the previous Facebook page that I had. So, and I just haven't been going over it. Before, what I ended up doing, before what I ended up doing is my Facebook, I had over 3,000 friends. And, don't know everybody. But it was like veteran, 3D printing, stuff like that. And then I posted a stream on Facebook, and because I was relaying news about crime, Facebook blocked it, banned it, the whole 9 yards, and they struck it. So I just never really got back into getting back into Facebook. I'm on it, and I use the Messenger with a few people. Like I said, I got 10 friends on there. But I'm not kind of going hard and heavy on that. Let's see. Ferris says, true, you have to moderate the Discord, but you can also set it up to approve new people, so you essentially know everyone there. Less crazy. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. The Discord thing, I think it's going to run the same way like the old forums and stuff. Eventually it's going to go away. Must be new Facebook. I thought we already Facebook friends at some point, unless you deleted me. No, I didn't delete. I had my account taken down because I was reading news from a public news article that had some words that flagged the algorithm on Facebook, and they deactivated my account. And then it took a while, and eventually I finally was able, after, it was quite some time, I can't remember, but I made another email address, and I finally got it to stick. So, yeah, it was absolutely crazy. So yeah, that's the one that 10 friends. Isn't that depressing? 10. I only have 10 friends. Oh no. And let's see, how many do I actually know of the 10 friends? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know 6 out of the 10. And that's all I know. So, of course, when I had the 3,000, I didn't know the majority of them either. So, whatever. Doesn't matter, I guess. So, anyway, that's what we got going on. Discord, I don't know. Maybe I'll look into it. I never really had too much craziness going on the Facebook. Now I sound like never had many problems on the Facebook. I just got a notification. Somebody sent a, boom, yep, friend request. Now I have 11. Yay! I feel so much better. So, let's see, what else do we got going on? So yeah, that's it. I guess that's it. We're just kind of we're winding down, and that's going to be it. It's about 9 o'clock. I'm getting a little hungry, so I'll have a little tiny snack, and then we'll probably end up having some breakfast over at La Paine. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. That'll be it. I'll look into the Discord thing a little bit. I'll check it out. Matter of fact, let me pull up I got so many things I want to look at. Discord. Group chat that's all fun and games. Okay. Need to get on AI and say, hey, what is Discord? Discord for dummies, whatever. So, Ferris says, CrossFit tomorrow morning already. Enjoy yourself. Be careful. I ended up doing chest and back yesterday, so that was good. Had a real good workout. Made some adjustments, so feeling about 90% better. So we're taking it easy, not going hard enough. So we got that. But I think we're going to wind this down. I think we're good. So we'll go back to the obligatory outro. If you want to contact me, again, the email address, there's that. Again, I posted my Facebook page, so if you want to get in touch with me that way. Basically, the Facebook Messenger, I'm active on that, even though I don't have a lot of friends. But the email, I'll definitely answer. But with the Facebook thing, I will answer more to that as well. Swedish Forge says, good night and have a good day. You too, sir, as well. Enjoy, and everybody else enjoy as well. Hopefully you'll like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that. Even if you're a longtime viewer, be sure to like the video. If you're new, subscribe, ring that bell so you can see other stuff. Me ranting and raving about being retired in Korea, 3D printing, miniature painting. Eventually we'll get back into all that, and whatever else I end up doing on the varied life that I have on YouTube. See how I did that? Yeah, pretty good? Okay. All right, everybody, have a good one. We'll see you on the next video. Peace.